Double Page Spread is brought to you by Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab. They have a new line of perfumes based on the Shakespeare plays Twelfth Night and Pericles. And when you buy these, the proceeds go to benefit the Independent Shakespeare Company. The Pericles blend smells like a clang of rusted armor, a dark metallic oud, leather, and a splash of seawater. So, go check those out and many more at blackphoenixalchemylab.com, as well as DCBS, the Discount Comic Book Service, always giving you an incredible deal when you set up pull lists with them or when you order, variant covers or statues or anything that your little heart desires. Go to dcbservice.com and check out their mighty, mighty bargains. Also, you can help support Double Page Spread. Buy some t-shirts, buy some merch, buy a skateboard deck. You can get anything with the really, really cool. There's the Happy Cappy logo. There's the Judge Dredd sipping on a Slurpee. Go check it out. Every time I wear one of my shirts, I get complimented by people in the street. I mean, that's obviously because Tom Kelly does the great artwork, but you should go check out that artwork at the Threadless tag in the links in the show notes. Go see it, and thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day. Hey there, welcome back to Double Page Spread, and I am your host, Ms. Wendi Freeman. Tonight I am joined by the creative team of the critically acclaimed horror comic Long Lost from Scout Comics, Mr. Matthew Erman and Lisa Sterle.
Hello, hi.
How you doing?
I am doing really well. I just got off work. I'm talking to you. I'm at home. All of these things are great things to have in my life. So I'm doing really good. Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, I spent most of today doing very chill portrait commissions for people. I've had kind of a hiatus from comics for the past month, so it's just been nice to take it easy. And breaking it up with podcasts is been good.
I like hearing about that. I'm always curious to hear about like what other artistic avenues comic artists take. Like what else you do to like I know like I've met people who do like pet portraits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Profile portraits, like kind of for people's Twitter avatars and Instagram profile photos and stuff, which people seem to really like. I did a tarot deck recently, which is going to be out at the end of the year, which was a really fun project because it was just because comics, don't get me wrong, I love comics, but just being able to spend like a couple months just doing illustrations every day and not really having to worry about, paneling and that kind of layout and the narrative form and all that, it was a nice little way to break up how comics tend to be comic projects tend to be just so long and endless feeling sometimes. So, but yeah.
And yet it takes so long for comics to come out. Like didn't the Glow book just come out, or is that coming out soon?
Yeah, it actually just came out
last week.
Last
Right.
Wednesday. Yep.
Right. So we'll definitely get into that. I mean, I think that's great. You got to work with Devin Grayson.
Oh yeah, she is fantastic. Her script was amazing. She was a great collaborator. Absolutely no complaints. It was such a joy. The whole team, actually, the editors, Elizabeth and Megan, and the colorist Triona, who I've been dying to work with for forever. Finally getting a chance to work with her was, it was all in all just a really fun month and a half of my life working on that comic.
So let's clarify, what was the official title? It's like the Glow Summer Special or something?
Yep, it's the Glow Summer Special one-shot.
Nice. And speaking of things that are on Netflix, I mean, obviously that's, I can't wait for that new season. That's coming out soon.
Yeah, I think it's August 25th or something like that. I think near the end of the month.
Yeah, that tracks.
End of August. Yeah, I can't wait. I've been hooked on Glow since the first season. It just has everything that I want in a TV show. It has the cast is mostly women. They're all great, fascinating, funny characters. It's dramatic. It's fun. You get to watch like campy, over-the-top wrestling promos and scenes and character building, and it is one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love things that deal with like female friendships. I like anything that's like female bonding. I love that stuff, and I feel like Glow definitely, like that whole relationship of Zoya and what's her name, the blonde
Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell. Yeah,
Mhm.
like, that's like one of my favorite things because it kind of hits that heart of forgiveness and friendship and trying to have a career with someone, like the same career as your best friend and how hard that is. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's cool. You got like a whole lady crew that worked on that book then.
Yeah, we did. It was great. It was, just like Glow.
So let's go back to how did you guys meet and when did you start collaborating artistically?
So, but I always try to figure out when this information should be.
Well, first, we're married.
Yes.
So, we met about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I think.
We met about 10 years ago.
We started talking on MySpace.
MySpace.
That's how we met. That's how old we are.
Yeah.
Coincident. Like we lived in the same town, Dayton, Ohio. Coincidentally, our parents lived right down the street from each other,
Mm-hmm.
and we started talking. And I think we our first comic that we made together when we actually started collaborating was probably 2 or 3 years into us knowing each other.
Yeah. That was like no, actually, I feel like we made a comic like within the first 2 years of knowing each other, and then a little bit after that, we made another comic that was published by a literary journal that was like 7 or 8 years ago. And then there was a long break as we kind of just tried to figure out our lives.
What we wanted to do. I guess for some reason we never really realized that we wanted to do comics or that it would be such a good fit for us. Like we made like that short 8-page comic. And it was fun and it was published, but I guess it never occurred to us that comics was a career that we could pursue.
No.
I don't know why. It was such a perfect merging of like our talents, like him as a writer and me as an artist. But a couple of years ago, we're both huge fans of horror, and we kept having this thing happen where we would go see a new horror movie and we would talk about all the things we liked about it, but then eventually we get to the part of the discussion where we're like, now this is what I would have done differently. And we just like critique it and be like, man, it was so close, but like there's just some missing element there. And so eventually we kind of realized that we should probably put our money where our mouth is and try and make our own horror and try and make the kind of thing that we like to look for in movies, and that's where Long Lost came from.
Yeah, Long Lost was kind of born out of like this weird, spiteful, creative energy against things we didn't like, and so we.
But also like a way to integrate all the things that we love.
Yeah, and like
into one thing.
100%. We tried to do something. We tried to make something that we would have wanted to watch, and I think we succeeded. I really like the story that we made. I'm really proud of it.
Well, I mean, isn't that sort of the cornerstone of every creation? It's like people are like, well, if you don't like that, then make your own. And here you are doing that. You know?
Yeah, we actually did it. We actually tried to do it. We did it, and I'm really proud of it. And I would recommend other people use that as kind of a jumping off point too, because everyone, I think especially now in this current cultural moment, I think opinions are a part of having kind of like I guess you could say it's like having an opinion on something is kind of like having a little bit of an identity. And so like when you have like a thing that you have a problem with, like don't complain about it. Just like do your thing. Go out and make your thing. And that's so much more rewarding and creatively fulfilling. And we did it, and it worked out pretty well for us. And I hope other people follow suit.
And I think there's a big part of the reason why Long Lost worked out so well for us is because it wasn't born from like, oh, we really want to make money off of comic books.
No,
it was born from just like, this is the thing that this is a story that we're really passionate about, and we want to tell it no matter what. Mm-hmm. And Scout was you know,
brave enough to do it.
because we had never made a comic before.
Yeah.
And they agreed to giving us 12 issues, which is wild, and I'm so happy that they let us take the time that we needed to tell our story. Because from that point onward, ever since the first few issues of Long Lost came out, like we've both been able to find like further success in comics, and I had no idea that I would be here at this point, where I'm just like,
it is a dream, and it's a wild dream, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I was actually working a full-time design job when I first started Long Lost #1, and now I'm full-time freelance as a comic artist, and it's so great. I love it.
So I had read that you had taken oil painting, like that was your main focus in college, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. In college, I majored in studio arts with a focus on oil painting portraiture. My whole thesis was women in different environments and kind of about perception and how environment plays into that, and how the way you dress and the way that you present yourself kind of alters the way people perceive you. And it's funny to think about like how different my art has become, but I still think kind of the central things that I'm interested are similar. Just the way that I go about creating is so different. I definitely didn't make it as a oil painter, but I'm super happy that I went the direction that I went, because I actually, to be honest, I like comics more than I ever liked oil painting. It's weird to admit that I was like, you know what? I didn't like oil painting as much as I thought I did. Comics are better.
It's such a long process from start to finish, and like
my least favorite part about it is so I'm a very messy person, and I absolutely hated having to clean up after painting, because if you don't clean up, then you ruin all of your brushes and all of your materials. So you have to spend like 20 minutes cleaning all your stuff up after you finish painting every day. With digital art, it's great because it's just like, turn off your computer, you're done.
Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the absolute beauty of digital work. And I really wanted to ask you. I feel like perhaps some of your painterly qualities really came into play, like with the use of tone wash and sort of like the change of throughout the book. Like some parts of the book feel very sepia, and some parts feel very like blue. You definitely came across with some of that.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, because kind of one of the things that I remember being really into in college was backgrounds and environments that are kind of lean more towards impressionistic and dreamy and like not fully rendered. I really liked doing that stuff in college, and being able to take kind of that inspiration and that starting point and work it into Long Lost where I could, where I'm kind of trying to emulate watercolor and ink washes and paint things in a way that's just like, it's not highly crazy detailed and rendered. You just kind of get an impression of what the setting is. Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think it adds to or I hope that it adds to a sort of ephemeral, like dreamy quality to the location and the place and the story. So.
Now, let's go into the plot of Long Lost. Let's tell everyone a bit about what it's about.
Yeah, so Long Lost is a story about two estranged sisters, Piper and Frances Laurent, and they are called back to their hometown after a strange creature comes to them and invites them to their mother's birthday party and informs them that she has also gone missing. And the story kind of goes from there, and it goes off the rails pretty much immediately. And you kind of follow Piper and Frances as they explore themselves and this town, Hazel Patch, where they're from, and uncover the mystery of what happened to their mother and how their past has kind of shaped them.
I also feel, I feel like there's so many things to tap on with this story, but I feel like you sort of captured this idea of this generation sort of being childless. Like you deal a lot with like how she treats her dog, and one of the girls has like a little speech on a bus about why she won't have children, and they
That's
both have
right.
issues with their mother, and sort of like that fear of like the mental illness of their mother and their relationships to their aunts. I definitely feel like there's certainly something about people today, about young people today, where like they're afraid, like
Oh,
it
terrifying.
feels hopeless. It feels hopeless to have children.
For sure. I mean, Lisa and I, we talk about this stuff all the time. We're married. It's a potential in our future, and it's just like it's always scary. It's you always there's always something that I have. My family has a history of mental illness, and so that's always a little terrifying, kind of getting into it. And culturally and socially, the world is kind of in this very strange place right now, and yeah, childlessness is, strangely enough, I've literally never considered this. It is a theme of the book. Thank you.
Yes.
I love finding new shit out about the things that I write.
Did you read that story that had every outrage this weekend, where the woman wrote a whole essay in the New York Times about why millennials who go to Disney without children are weird?
I have seen the news articles. I have not actually read the article, but I disagree wholeheartedly.
Of
Adults
course.
should be able to go to Disney World, sans child, and be socially accepted.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with appreciating some childhood nostalgia as an adult if kid is not in tow or present or exists. It's okay.
Well, I mean, if anything, I believe more restaurants should not allow children.
Yeah. Who needs them? They're not paying the tab.
But yeah, I mean, of course, there are a lot of people who still get. There's so much at Disney World and Disneyland that's geared to adults. Like the whole Star
Sure.
Wars land and all these things. Like there are so many things that are, it's totally not. I mean, children can enjoy it, but there are a lot of things that are aimed at older people.
But and also, let's be not to get super off track, but children have a very limited window of appreciable memory. So
Hmm.
it's like even if you do take your kid to Disney World, I mean, you went to Disney World when you were a kid. Do
Yeah.
you remember half of the stuff?
I don't remember the first time we went.
Right.
I was like 7, I think.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You don't even appreciate it. And it probably cost your parents like $5,000 to get you there.
Right.
And just like more adults should go.
Also, it's just like I feel the same way about.
Children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about people who throw elaborate birthday parties for like their 1 and 2-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
Like no, you're just throwing a little
Oh.
party as like a hangout for the adults. Like don't go out of your way to make it like this big theme for the kids.
Exactly.
They're not gonna remember.
Kids are ridiculous. If you read Long Lost, that's the one thing you should take away from our book is that kids are ridiculous.
And the other element that I really, really latched onto from your work, from Long Lost and from Bonding, which we'll get into, is you have this sort of very Cronenbergian sense of body horror. Like a lot of the imagery in Long Lost, there are those things that look sort of like umbilical cords or
Yeah.
vulvas. It's all very yeah. You definitely have like this sense of that, and people ingesting like what is it? They're ingesting some sort of stone.
Yeah, they ingest I think I call them auger stones in the book, and what grows inside of them after consuming these stones are bezoars, which Lisa turned me on to actually. I didn't know what those were until I did
Yeah.
a deep dive into what that
And
horrible
actually, I think Harry Potter introduced that to
Harry-
me a
Harry
long
Potter.
ago.
um
But yeah, they're like these hair covered like masses that can grow in your stomach if you essentially ingest things you're not supposed to ingest.
Like
Yeah,
weird hairballs.
Yeah, they're like
essentially
human hairballs.
hairballs. Yeah, they're real gross looking.
No, but I love body horror. I think there's like I I have a really simple concept like theory or philosophy on horror, and it's just like the less you know about it, the more terrifying it is. And I think in general, across the board, our generation knows very little about our body. I think we tend to not go to the doctor. I think we tend to kind of shirk the responsibility of investigating things that might necessarily be scary or lead to very scary circumstances. I know I don't like going to the doctor. I don't like getting my blood tested. I don't like knowing that there is a mystery that could be solved with a bad answer. And so that just generally is pretty scary. And when you have something kind of growing in your body, I feel like we're getting back to kids a little bit, but
they're the ultimate parasite. Yeah,
you really are. Whenever something's going on in your body that you can't understand or you don't know, or that it's bigger than even going to the doctor, it's terrifying. It's really scary. And I think that also one of the things that the book touches on is like, I guess wellness, both mentally, like mental well-being and physical well-being, they kind of go hand in hand in Long Lost. And I think those things can be really great fuel for horror stories and kind of talking about other bigger concepts.
The things we're afraid of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to go off on another weird tangent, I'd read some other article recently about how women, we go to the gynecologist, and how a lot more women sort of rely on the gynecologist for their overall medical well-being, because we just don't want to go see other doctors. Like, we know we had to see the gynecologist, we try to, take care of everything in one shot. And how gynecologists are sort of taking on all these medical responsibilities that are outside their purview,
Oh, that's interesting, but I can definitely relate, because it's just like, I have to go to the gynecologist every year, but no one's making me go to a primary care doctor every year.
Right.
So it's like, I'll go if something's really wrong, I guess, but it's just such a hassle, and no, I can totally relate to that.
I can't. But I think there should be more gynecologists. That's a good stance to take.
Just
more women's health.
Yeah, there you go. More,
Fund Planned Parenthood,
Yeah.
So let's go on. This whole idea of estranged family and small towns and these mysteries. It also reminded me, we were talking about Midsummer, the popular film of this year, and how it kind of has similar beginnings of that idea of like these two sisters who can't get hold of each other on the phone, and everything sort of stems from that beginning.
That's right. It does have we were talking about it earlier. I didn't even realize that there's two sisters talking on a phone in the beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
They can't get a hold of each other and they're panicking. That's the exact beginning to both of these stories.
Damn it. I got to get a hold of Ari Aster. See if you read my book. No, Midsummer's great. And we talked about kind of just like, I don't know if it's like momentary cultural zeitgeisty, like we're all kind of talking and feeling the same thing. And I think some of these stories have a tendency to delve into similar concepts and similar things that happen. And it feels like, I actually like when that happens. It feels good. There's like the first, 30 seconds, I'm like, God damn it. But then I get over it and I realize like, this is good. People are talking about this stuff. People are like communicating in an ephemeral, kind of weird, subconscious way where we're all kind of trying to articulate similar points to the general society. And it kind of feels like an exclusive club to be a part of people that are talking about this stuff. I don't know. It feels good. Yeah. I like being here, if that makes sense.
It feels like it's a camaraderie. It feels like we're all trying to express this anxiety we feel somehow. Yet somehow you've actually gone out and done it, and now you see other people going out and doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we're all part of one big support group, and we're all trying to say the same things. And it comes out in different ways. And I think that's kind of the beauty of art.
Yep.
Yeah, that got deep, but yeah, absolutely.
So, how do you guys work together? Like, how do you really collaborate? What's the sort of process between the two of you?
Well, we, the brainstorming, the first initial planning stages, we do a lot together.
100%, yeah.
We'll, pop open a bottle of wine and we'd be like, okay, what's happening in issue 5?
Yeah.
And then we'll spend the whole night, kind of debating, going back and forth, tossing out ideas. It's honestly my favorite part about working with Matt is because we have such a long history of just like trust and we explicitly like
believe in each other
and each other's opinion, so we can be totally open and like say whatever crazy idea we have without fear of being judged. So it's a really great way to just...
It's a very beautiful, like, brainstorm. It's like the best brainstorming.
It's honestly one of my favorite parts of making comics is
that's
getting
such an
to do
endorsement.
that with
You're
you.
so talented.
Yes. But yeah, and then once we kind of like nail down, or we all agree on like, okay, this is where the story should go next, and this is what should be happening, then Matt does the hard part and he actually writes it all down.
Yeah, then
it makes it all make sense. So
yeah, then I'll do the scripting, and then Lisa is always kind of around because we live in the same house. So I'll bounce ideas off of her for the script, like how does this read, how does this sound, and it's a very, like, from start to finish, it's so collaborative. When Lisa gets the finished and finalized script, then I'm involved as much as she will allow me to be involved in the art process as well.
I allow you to be pretty involved.
Yeah. No, she passes on pages and is like, how does this look? Anything? How does this hand look? How does this face look? And what do you think could be different? And it's, I don't know. It feels like
there's a lot of back and forth.
There really is. I mean, there are plot points in Long Lost that Lisa developed. There's art that I pushed for her to do, and I don't know. It's like I said, it's really the most rewarding collaborative experience, and it's something that I am happy to say that I only get to experience with my wife.
Aww.
Although I guess it would be really nice if more artists were like this, but I do understand that they all can't live in my house. So.
You need to like more creative teams need to like set up a summer camp or something. That's it. We're living in a house for 2 weeks.
Cool.
Would be on that. Pretty neat idea of like a comic book retreat where you just go hang out with your writer for the next couple months and you just make comics together.
I would be way down for that.
Well, it's rad. Like when you hear about those movies and it's like we made all the actors live in an apartment for a month,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Glow.
Yes, yeah, there you go. Rent out a really crappy hotel and a really bad motel and just make everybody live there and do comics.
I am game. I'm down for that. I'll kickstart it.
Yeah, or like the Brill Building, like when they had all those songwriters in the 50s and like that was their job, was like they had to write songs for the Ronettes or whatever.
I didn't know anything. I don't know anything about
this.
Oh
my gosh. Okay, so let me go off on a tangent. So the Brill Building is like my favorite era of songwriting, and it was people like Carole King and gosh, I can't think, but like all those people who wrote like a whole bunch of these songs in the 50s and 60s are like churning out hits. They would assign a lyricist and a songwriter to like sit in an office together with a piano, and that was their job. Was like, you have to give me a #1 single for a boy group by the end of the day.
Wow.
So like that was just what they did. They treated it like a job, and then they had a studio in the building and they had all these things, and they just like they'd make these albums, and they made like all these hit albums, all these things.
What was that era called?
The Brill Building, BRILL.
BRILL. I'm writing it down.
Yeah. Look it up.
Go on a research tangent.
Because it's really fascinating. Like all the hit songs that came out of that whole era, and like all these songwriting teams, these collaborations, and it was people that ordinarily wouldn't have worked together or wouldn't have known each other. So
that sounds super cool. I am a huge music is like a huge passion. I love listening to music. I love learning about music. Long Lost, every one of the chapter titles is a song that I felt spoke to the ethos of the chapter in some way. I absolutely love music. It's so great. It's the best.
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say about music.
So, like, what do you feel were like your top 3 songs that define Long Lost, or maybe like different musical artists that sort of influenced Long Lost?
Oh yeah, so the first one is a song called "Farewell Transmission" by Songs Ohio.
Uh-huh.
That's right. There's a Songs Ohio poster in the one. Right, I noticed that.
Yeah.
They also do a kind of it's a song that's playing in their car as they're driving to
Hazel Patch.
Yeah, as we're driving to Hazel Patch.
Yeah,
as
those
well.
those lyrics coming from the car are the song's Ohio lyrics. I love that song. It speaks to me. It speaks to the story, I think, in some weird, strange way. It just sets the vibe so well. Okay, you can go next.
Oh God, no! You're the one who
Okay.
who did all the music.
Okay,
You
and
can
then
do it.
the original title of Long Lost was a Townes Van Zandt song called Our Mother the Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, again, it's a beautiful song. It's so interesting. It's like this weird horror story as a folk song. Highly recommend it. Townes Van Zandt, he's the best. And then the third one,
Sister Angel
Sister.
Olsen.
Yeah, Angel Olsen's song "Sister" off of her most recent album is so beautiful and it's so heartfelt, and it really connected to me when I was writing the story, and I was
I
like,
think that one's the chapter title to the second to last issue.
last
Last
issue
chapter.
is titled "Sister."
Yeah.
Those are the three songs. Farewell Transmission.
I'm sorry. How come there's never been a biopic about Townes Van Zandt?
Because it's probably far too depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a random thought. I feel like we need that. I don't know why we don't have a biopic about the life of Townes Van Zandt, because he was fascinating. Yeah.
He's an incredibly interesting individual with the most tragically heartbreaking, like there's electrotherapy in his past and stuff. It's he's such an interesting person, and biopic. Someone listening to this should biopic him.
Right, because I mean, he and Brian Wilson were like on that same wavelength, on that same sort of tangent of that time, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And they're both dealing with mental illness. They're both dealing with this stuff, which once again makes Townes Van Zandt an interesting pick for a story about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I'm going to post on Twitter right after this about someone making a Townes Van Zandt biopic.
Like, once every 6 months, I get really angry there's not a biopic about Badfinger.
Badfinger, the punk band?
No, Badfinger, the band that did No Matter What, and they were signed to Apple Records. They were signed to the Beatles label in the 60s, and they had like a whole bunch of songs. Baby Blue. They had a whole bunch of like really hit songs.
Oh,
right.
I heard Baby Blue. I didn't know that was Badfinger.
That's what I said. Badfinger.
Badfinger. I'm listening to. I'm gonna write that down and I'm gonna listen to them.
Anyway, so like like two of the members killed themselves after they got screwed over in their record deal, and like shit just went really really sad for them. But like their songs are some of the most catchy, like great songs of all time, and I'm always like, why isn't there a movie about Badfinger?
Strange how that is, isn't it? It's just like these, like Elliott Smith was also somebody who wrote very upbeat, catchy songs, but the subject matter was always so depressing, and he ended up taking his own life. It's depression. Depression is such an interesting, it's such a bizarre thing to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So on to the Care Bears.
Yeah, on the Care Bears.
That's a great segue.
Here's a list of tragic musicians who killed themselves. Let's talk about the Care Bears. How about that grumpy bear?
Wow. So, I mean, yeah, we can absolutely talk about Care Bears. I'll say one last thing about Long Lost.
Yes, yeah.
It's on Comixology, and anyone who wants to listen or read it, feel free to check it on Comixology. It's a story that came from Lisa and I, like the bottom of our heart. It's very personal to both of us, and I hope anyone who stumbles on it really enjoys it, because I put a lot into it. We
both put a lot of ourselves into it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for the kind words on Long Lost. I always love talking about it.
Well, it's a good story. It's a very good story, and I think it definitely it's definitely something that speaks to a lot of people right now, and it's very easy to connect to. It's a horror story that's very easy to relate to, I think.
If I could flip the script and ask you a couple of questions, who did you enjoy most between Piper or Francis?
Wait, which was the sort of like the looser one, the one that was
Francis.
Frances definitely, because she definitely seemed to have that sort of putting her foot in her mouth, or just saying what she really just wanted to. Like, she definitely had that, that feel. I think I'm definitely like that. I'm much more of a Frances.
I feel similarly as well. I feel like I have a deep spiritual connection with Francis. I feel like we share the same brain, if that makes sense.
No, I feel more like a Piper. I'm like the doom and gloom. So,
Yeah,
just
that
a
tracks.
bit.
But yeah, thank you again for the kind words. We can talk about Care Bears now.
So Care Bears. Now this is also interesting. This just dawned on me. So on Long Lost you work with your wife. On Care Bears you work with Agnes Grabowska, and on Bonding you work with a female artist as well.
Yeah, Emily Pearson.
Yeah, so you really work with a lot of women.
I do. I love working with all types of people. I've been very fortunate to work with some all incredibly talented women. Yeah, I feel really lucky, honestly. Like I love everyone's art. I love Lisa's art. I love Agnes's art. I love Emily's art. And I love my collaborators that I can't talk about right now because we're doing secret stuff. Their art is great. And I don't know if I had a point, but more women should work in the industry. More non-binary people should work in the industry. More people that are trans should work in the industry and get more opportunities. And I love working with people that have a different perspective or a unique perspective, or can bring their own something to the book. And not to say that women have that more frequently than other people. It's just people that have an interesting viewpoint on life. I love getting to share that and experience that with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I love Agnes Grabowska's take on the Care Bears. I'm a sucker. I love
They're
me
so
some Care
good.
Bears. And it's funny because there was that Rainbow Bright book that came out not too long ago, and I was like, oh, I really enjoyed the way Rainbow Bright was redesigned, and here I really love how the Care Bears are redesigned. And I want to hear about how did you go from doing this depressing, strange horror stuff to doing the Care Bears? How did you get this gig?
So that I feel like is going to be the question of the rest of my life, because I still, we did a signing on Saturday for Glow and Care Bears, and I had so many adorable little children come up to me and express with so much exuberance and joy that they were getting their first Care Bears comic, and maybe just their first comic in general. And literally sitting next to Care Bears on our table is Long Lost, and be like, this, you literally cannot look at this. Your parents would be mad at me if I did not let you look at this. So Care Bears arose from I was kind of pitching things to IDW. And I was given some opportunities from them. Very, very, always will forever be in their debt and their gratitude. And they gave me some opportunities to pitch for them, and they really liked my stuff. They really liked my pitches. Those pitches were not taken, but a new opportunity came up with Care Bears, and they wanted to hear my insights on Care Bears. And I expressed to them, I'm like, hey guys, I know you've read this, but I just want to reiterate and just make sure we're on the same page. I wrote Long Lost, and you are okay with me kind of jumping into the Care Bears river with everybody. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. We want to hear your idea. We want to hear your pitch. And then that gave me an intense amount of anxiety, and I brought aboard. I hit up a very, very dear friend of mine, Nadia Shamus, who's the co-writer on the book, and I was like, will you please help me do this? I'm so terrified. And she brought so much confidence and energy and so much talent to this book that I would be remiss if I didn't shout out to her and say, this book would not exist if it wasn't for her. So we both kind of worked together to develop a story. and we actually pitched 2 stories to IDW, and they picked one of them, and that's the story that we're working on right now. And it's the most surreal thing in the world to write Care Bears. It's very, very strange. I bet it's really strange for people that really know me pretty well to read it too, because
Oh yeah, when I finally got a chance to read it, because I told Matt that I didn't want to read Care Bears until the art was done, and so I would have no idea what parts were more Nadia and what parts were more Matt, and it's so funny reading it and being like, oh, that's a Matt line right there. That's a Matt joke. I can tell that is something Matt has literally said. So
is Matt a grumpy? Are you a grumpy bear?
I
he can be a grumpy bear.
I
yeah.
can be. I'm like a mix between a grumpy bear and like a funshine, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Funshine or good luck bears, probably. I feel like I'm a pretty lucky dude with everything. I feel like good luck's a good stand-in for me.
Yeah.
I relate to that. But yeah, Care Bears. Still can't believe I wrote it.
Well, it's interesting to me because, I mean, I love the idea of taking a property like the Care Bears and really kind of differentiating personalities for each of these bears. Because it's generic, like, oh, they're all happy and rainbows shoot out their asses or whatever, you know? But it's like, here you have to kind of like really, really assert, like, oh, Funshine Bear's really the leader type one, and this one is whatever. Now, I want to talk about what's up. You gave them, like, they're traveling around in, like, a bus, and they had these cool little, like, scooter things.
Yeah.
Now, I remember I had the toy that was, like, the cloud car. They had a cloud car. I remember that.
Yeah, so the comic is I will say I didn't create a lot of the lore of Care Bears.
You had to do some deep diving into the Care Bears style guide. Yeah.
Yes, actually. So there's a new series on VRV right now called Care Bears Unlock the Magic, and that's been running for I think a little over like around a year now, and that's what the comic's based off of. Yeah, they have a bus. It's called the Cloud Seeker. It's this big, like, mega all-terrain happiness bus that they ride around in and spread joy with. It's wild. It's such an incredible and, like, creative and weird sandbox to play around in. It's very cool.
But will you bring in the cousins? Will you bring in the Care Bear cousins?
Care Bear cousins.
Do you know the Care Bear cousins?
Knowing about the Care Bear cousins means that I must now do research.
Oh my God! So there's a lion, and there's an elephant, and there's a raccoon.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Yes.
I've always wondered, like, what the hell they are, because they're not bears.
No, they're the Care Bear cousins. There's a whole movie. They have a whole separate movie.
And they're like lions and stuff.
They're different animals. There's like a purple raccoon, and
I don't
there's
like that.
and there's like an elephant one, and oh my gosh, I need
That
you to
feels
write
like
me
a
a Care Bear
watering
cousin
down of
story.
the brand.
How dare you? It only enhances the brand.
No, as far as I know, unless there have been some secret rewrites behind my back, the Care Bear cousins will not be making an appearance in Nadia and I's 3-issue run. Oh, there they are. There's a penguin. There's an elephant. There's a lion and a bear and a raccoon. Huh.
I think you need to explore this in another series. I think you need to pitch to the cousins.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because it's like the presumption is that if you are a Care Bear, you are a bear. Mm-hmm. But if you're just like, and also, that's gonna be some late nights figuring what this is. Gonna have to watch this movie.
Oh yeah, here's another picture, here's a screenshot from a movie.
Oh.
Don't even get me started on the Get Along Gang or the Wuzzles.
I won't.
All right, do you remember them? Like the Get Along Gang was like another group of very 80s animals who hung out together. And the Wuzzles were like weird mashup animals. Like there was like one who was like a bumblebee and a bear or something. Okay. Anyway.
I'm not liking this Island of Dr. Moreau stuff that's going on with the Wuzzles.
I'm sorry. All I keep doing is just shooting these ridiculous things at you.
Maybe I'll pitch an Isle of Dr. Wuzzles or something and I wonder who holds the property on it.
I think that's also Hasbro. I'm pretty sure that's Hasbro.
Incredible. But yeah, Care Bears. It's the next issue's out next month. Everyone, go pick it up.
Yes, yeah, go pick that up. Although you introduced some new characters, those little Whipples or whatever you call them.
Yes. So the Whiffles are. So I'm not gonna lie. I'm not really sure what the Whiffles actually are, or what like they are a variety.
I have that question. What are the Whipples?
You know, I think they are just like amalgamated, cute sprite, like
babies,
forest babies, or like spirit. They're not spirits, but they're like
Nymphs, like
fairies. Yeah, they're like little
fairies is a good comparison, I think.
Yeah,
they like take care of the world, right? They like little like
they're like they nurture and they sow. They specifically are very well equipped to garden and like retrieve seeds from the earth.
They sound like they're kind of like fairies. They're the Care Bear version of fairies.
They're the Care Bear version of fairies. And the Whiffles are great. Again, they are part of the Care Bears Unlock the Magic series. As is Bluster and the Bad Crew.
Yeah, because I was like, the Care Bears don't have a rogues gallery the way Strawberry Shortcake did.
No, they don't. I'm excited to. I'm excited to really get into Bluster's character, which is strange to say again, but he's a really cool character to write. He's really funny. He's just kind of a big dick, for lack of a better word. He's not very nice, and he just really has a interest in participating in only the coolest things. And he's a bit of a dweeb at the end of the day. And I really like that about him. He tries so hard to be cool, and he's not very cool at all.
So, it's cool. Well, I look forward to the other 2 issues.
Wonderful.
I'm totally gonna read that.
Thank you. No, I feel like Care Bears is a weird. The way Nadia and I are writing it is that we're trying to make it enjoyable for both very small children and adults who are like, "What is this?"
So let's skip back to your other project, going back to the world of weird tumors and slugs and so forth. Bonding, your comic from Vault.
Yeah, Bonding is my next book. I would say it's I would say it's closer to Long Lost than Care Bears if you're going into my bibliography of 2 books. But Bonding is a sci-fi horror romance about Marcus and Laura and their budding relationship and the parasitic alien slugs that dangle off of the fronts of their chests. And the prologue that is currently out and you can read for free is kind of... I would consider it like a back matter or just kind of introducing people into this world, and follows little boy Marcus as he goes to the bonding clinic to select his parasitic slug for the first time.
Which is something we can all relate to.
Absolutely. You know, you hit the ripe age of 10 and your mom takes you to some alien hospital and you get to decide what's going to hang off the front of your chest for the rest of your life.
But it's interesting because it also kind of ties into, like there's always that idea, the fear of puberty, and the fear of like this sort of like this weird change, or like the X-Men, like powers manifest when you hit a certain puberty age, or
yeah, that'd be a really bad X-Men power.
Yeah,
I grow a slug on my chest.
I mean, it is kind of like this weird thing, like you're metamorphosing into something, so it may as well be like you have a weird slug on your chest once you hit, 11 or 12, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really excited about Bonding. I don't know how much I can talk about the plot of the book proper when it releases next year. I think in February sometime. Mm-hmm. But I'm really excited for it. It's another just off the wall story. And Emily is such a champ. She has drawn so many weird things in this book. And they're so beautiful, and I'm really excited for people to see it. I hope it's something that people can relate to, or I hope at a minimum it's so weird that people are forced to contend with it, which would be a nice thing.
Nice. All right, Lisa, what have you got coming up?
Well, I have, I mentioned earlier, a tarot deck, the Modern Witch tarot deck that will be out this fall.
Can you read tarot cards? Are you good at that?
I am not as good as I should be for someone that has made a tarot deck.
Well, you could just be a really great artist. But I'm just curious how intuitive you are.
Yeah,
Lisa's very intuitive.
Yeah, okay.
I know you wouldn't say that.
I'm just bad at, like, memorizing things, and there's just so much, like, possible, like, interpretations for every single card that I feel like to be a really good reader, you kind of have to know not just, like, what one person says this card means, but, like, what a lot of different people have interpreted this card, and then you kind of, like, pick and choose based on the cards around it. It is definitely a very intuitive process reading, but requires a lot of knowledge that I am still adding to my library. But yeah, the tarot deck was super fun. That comes out this fall. You can pre-order that from Amazon and Barnes & Noble right now. As far as what I have coming up, I have a project that I can't talk about yet. My next comics project, can't talk about it yet, unfortunately. Hopefully soon it'll get announced. But that's what I'm going to be working on for the better part of a year. So, I guess we'll just have to embrace the mystery for now.
Embrace the mystery.
Yeah.
Isn't this like the Care Bears embracing the friendship magic or whatever?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unlock the magic and embrace the mystery.
Unlock
There you go.
magic and embrace the mystery.
Cool. Well, let's wrap it up then. So where can people find you on Twitter, and where can they find you on social media and find Long Lost?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Lisa_Sterle. I'm on Instagram at Lisa Sterle. You can check out my website too, lisasterle.com, if you just want a quick way to look at all of my work at once, my portfolio and all that. And
you can find me on Twitter at Matthew Erman, and you can go to my website, which is just MatthewErman.com. There's not a whole lot on there except like a weird blurb, but I still appreciate it anyway. And you can find the first book of Long Lost on Comixology, and the second book you're going to have to hunt down because it is not on Comixology yet. Hit up your local comic book store. You can also find both of the physical versions on Scout's website, Scout Comics' website, www.scoutcomics.com. You can buy it from their shop. They'll ship it to you, and you'll get to read our weird book.
Yay!
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for embracing and unlocking the friendship magic with me.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having us on. This was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great time.
Yeah.
The whole place is dark. Every light on this side of the town